Hi there, this is Wendy Anderson, and this is my coaching session with our teacher who was focused on a habitat lesson. When dealing with this teacher, especially since it sounds like I've already been talking with her and working with her previously, I would start off by praising her about something that I noticed in her lesson that we've talked about in the past. I made that up. But for example, I noticed that she used a couple of rigorous questions within her lesson. For example, I would let her know, hey, I really appreciated the fact that you used a rigorous question when you were talking about water pollution during coral reef. You really upped the rigor in that lesson. We've talked about that before, so I'm very proud of you for doing that. And then I would also encourage her to be thinking about ways to continue to incorporate those rigorous questions into her lesson. The lesson was about habitats. The video said that it was a social studies lesson. I'm not positive what grade level it was, but I took a lot of notes over this lesson, and so I would probably break down a few things for her. But as far as probing the lesson, I would ask her to do a know and show chart. And this is something that my school district started after our Bambrick Leveraging Leadership training, in which we take the standard and we ask the teacher to sit down with it and break down, what do my students have to know and what do they have to show in order to be successful? And so I would ask her to do that so that we can really probe into what was the point of that lesson? What were we trying to teach our students? What did they really need to know when they walked away from that lesson? Because that's going to allow her to kind of pinpoint, one, where I'm going with this coaching session, but also it's going to help her pinpoint a little more how she structures that session. The action step that I would take with her would be to focus on her monitoring of the students and their demonstration of learning. It was 12 minutes before an opportunity to really demonstrate understanding took place. She was reading from the book the whole time. The students were sitting and getting. She gave a couple of students the opportunity to stand up and point at the book. And she gave the opportunity for a lot of recall questions. So I would focus on, how do you know that they fully understand what they're supposed to know, going from habitat to habitat. She went from the Arctic to the rainforest and there was no transition in between. And so she's created this know and show chart. And so now that we know what our students need to know and we know how we want them to show it, how do you begin to allow them to demonstrate that learning? So then we would move into the practice stage. I would ask her to then begin plotting out either a reteach of this lesson. I don't know what the data is from this, how she graded what they learned, but my guess would be that our students are likely going to struggle with some of the information because, again, it was a lot of just recall. And so I'd ask her to either create that reteach or even a review of the lesson. Perhaps they're going to have some type of assessment, so let's review habitats. And so I'd have her write that out. How would she do that? And our focus would be ways to break that lesson up, and how do we allow our students to demonstrate their knowledge? And going back to her praise from earlier, I would ask her to then begin incorporating more of those rigorous questions and to actually plan them out. We have these questions. That coral reef question was really strong. So how do we begin planning those as part of our lesson? Make them intentional. I would then plan ahead by asking her when she can incorporate that reteach or that review into her lesson, and schedule an observation at that time. And then I would follow up with her a few days to a week following that reteach. And then I would want to look at actual data. Now that we've taken the time to incorporate rigorous questions, now that we've taken the time to allow the students to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding, where are they now? And then we would go from there. So I really enjoyed watching this lesson. It was exciting, and I loved the opportunity to come up with some coaching opportunities for this teacher. Thank you so much. Again, Wendy Anderson. Thank you.